people here. I never know how to start these things. We're Josh, a person.
Hello, my name is Josh. I'm collections assistant of Amphibians and Reptiles here at the Field Museum. And this is a juvenile alligator that we'll be skinning today.
Yes, yeah. So I've admittedly never done an alligator, never done any kind of reptile, completely out of my element. So why don't you kind of walk us through how this is gonna go?
All right, so first we're going to roll it over onto its back, and we're gonna make a ventral incision all the way down.
Okay.
And from there, we'll kind of peel it back and go for the feet, and then try to go for the neck area, and then we'll do the tail.
Tail last.
Yeah.
Good to know. Okay. And this guy came from Louisiana.
From a wildlife refuge there. We're not entirely sure how it died, but this was found in our freezer downstairs. It's been sitting in that freezer for 10 years.
Yeah.
Now. So
longer than...
We don't know what kind of smell it will produce when it's opened, so this may be the best odor this room will have right now.
All day.
But we'll find out.
Yeah, it's an adventure. What did I call it? An olfactory journey. That's the name of my band.
All right, so we're gonna start.
So Josh, how old was this guy? Do you have an estimation?
This guy, or girl, we don't know what gender this is yet.
Another exciting.
They are probably about 3 or 4 years old. So in maybe 3 or 4 more years, they would be old enough to begin reproducing.
But I've never seen an alligator this close before. I think if you got this close to an alligator, you'd be kind of having a hard time. I'm just amazed by all of these scales here.
Yeah, and then if you feel around the different parts, you can feel the ventral side is a lot smoother and softer than the dorsal side.
So does this smoothness help them when they're kind of belly crawling?
Kind of, but it's mostly for protection. So they need more protection on the upper half of their bodies rather than the lower half.
Gotcha.
So we're preparing this gator to become a skeleton in our skeletal collection. So the skin and organs will still preserve in ethanol. The skin on reptiles are very important as it's used for identification. Crocodiles and alligators, not so much. Most people can kind of tell what kind it is from where it's from or other features. But who knows, maybe in the future, the number of scales the alligator has on its belly could be very important.
Okay.
So down here, I'm approaching the cloaca, and that's where the alligator's waste and reproductive organs come out of. And so we're gonna try and keep the skin intact, so we're gonna go around it, and so then when we peel it back, it should be still intact on the other side.
And we don't know what the sex of this is yet, but once we begin exploring the cloaca, we will find out?
Yes, hopefully it should be quite obvious enough.
Cloaca Exploration is the name of the first track on my album. What was my band name? I had an olfactory journey.
You should expect album art by the end of the day.
So last time someone made like a cover art, and they even wrote out the lyrics for one of the songs when we were doing the beaver dissection. I can't remember what it is, but I do have it in a Google Doc on my computer. What kind of alligator is it?
It's an American alligator. And so we got this from Louisiana at a wildlife refuge there. There are actually only 2 kinds of alligators living in the world today. So there's the American alligator, which you get here in Central America, and the Chinese alligator, which is endemic to China.
So I know when you do mammals, you normally don't wear gloves, you use sawdust. I see you both wearing gloves today. Is that a reptile thing or?
No.
Just feeling like.
Yeah, that's a good question. So sometimes when we've done mammal dissections in the past, we haven't worn gloves, sometimes we do. I think it kind of comes down to personal preference. With mammals, we've always found that if you use some sawdust in your bare hands, you can get a better grip on it. Raven, our production assistant, told me this morning, oh, by the way, alligators can carry West Nile virus, so see ya. And so an abundance of caution, I think, zoonosis is a thing, but
as for the sawdust, reptile skin, because of the scales, is generally very firm anyways, that you don't really, it's not like fluid and loose as much as mammal furs are.
Yeah, and the odors really get into your hands too.
Yeah, if we weren't wearing gloves, we would be smelling like this for like the next week.
Yeah, I don't need that. When we did the skunk dissection, we wore 2 pairs of gloves because you really don't want your hands smelling like skunk butt gas. So
the question was, how do you tell the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? and it depends if it sees you later or in a while.
That was a joke.
Sorry. But the main difference is, so the alligator has a more U-shaped snout. And here we have a crocodile skull. You can see the crocodile has a more V-shaped snout. But sometimes some gators just have really thin snouts, so that's not a really good way to tell. So you look on their teeth, and the alligators, you notice you can only see the top row of teeth. You can't see the bottom row. When the crocodiles, you can see most of the bottom row teeth. Even when their mouths are closed, you'll see the fourth lower tooth is still outside of the mouth. We can talk about this. So in the tails are super powerful. They have so much muscle and mass in the tail.
Oh my gosh.
At the very tip of their tail, when the muscle starts, getting less and less, the scales start to get super thick.
Oh, wild.
So I have to go super slowly to cut down this whole thing. So the question was, what sort of things do collections assistants do, and how I got the job? So we are like a library of these animals. So this one is just one of the many books that we have at the Field Museum. And so researchers from all over the world ask us for these animals, both skeletons and formalin preserved ones. And I'm kind of like the librarian in the sense that I provide them with that. So we'll mail it to them, or I'll take photos of them of what they need, or give them measurements. And they also come here and take their own data from it.
Blade interlude. That's the third track on my album.
Yes. So the question was, what's the difference between the American alligator and the Chinese alligator? So the American alligator gets a lot bigger than the Chinese alligator. The American alligator can grow up to 15 feet long.
What? Really?
Yes. We would be here
15 feet?
forever if that's how big that
That's
alligator
longer than
was.
this table.
Yes.
Jeez Louise.
And I think the Chinese alligator can only grow up to 7. Alligators are one of the few reptiles to display parental care. So the mom will guard the eggs, and then after they've hatched, she will guard the young. And she'll even like bury them on her back or in her mouth.
Yeah, but you can find videos of that, of the baby alligators in the mouth, and then she just like swims around, moving the babes. I'm glad humans don't do that. That'd be a little weirder.
Yeah.
Oh, questions from the internet about their feet. What I thought was interesting is that they have really cute little hands, but only 3 claws on their fingers, and these two don't have.
They would have claws, they'd just be underneath the skin.
Oh.
So they could also have not come out yet, but you can feel there is like a nail type claw in there.
Really? So it is it's under the skin. Why would it grow like that?
I'm not sure. But another cool thing to point out, so on the front legs, they have 5 fingers, and on the back, they have 4.
Whoa, I didn't notice.
Probably something to do with swimming, as the back legs are more webbed than the front legs are.
They are great swimmers. They can propel themselves through the water at tremendous speeds. They can also propel themselves using this really big tail with all of this muscle in here. I mean, it is just muscle. They can propel themselves out of the water. So if there's like something, a monkey or some prey item, they can basically propel themselves their entire length of their body. So they'll like get a swimming start and then just launch themselves up. And you can see cool videos on the internet of them doing that, jumping all the way
There are
up.
also really cool videos of them propelling themselves up fences on land.
What?
So these guys can actually climb, but not so much as like climbing up, more or less just pushing themselves up with these really big tails.
I am increasingly concerned about alligators. You kind of see them and they look, threatening, but a little slow moving and innocuous, but they can also run pretty fast.
So if they want to, they can just have a burst of energy to chase something down.
And so they're going to chase after you and then jump over a fence, and so you're kidding. They won't do that.
No, they're pretty chill. The question was about how old the families of crocodiles and alligators are. So crocodilians in general, which means all crocodiles and alligators and caimans and gabriels, appeared in the late Cretaceous era, I believe, so like 95 million years ago.
Wow.
But the alligators and the crocodiles have always been kind of separate from each other. So they are in separate, they're in the crocodilian order, but they're in separate families, with the alligators and Alligatoridae and the crocodilians and Crocodilidae.
Crocodilidae? Crocodilidae, that's the fifth track on my
track.
album. Crocodilidae, that one's gonna have more of a folksy sort of. Crocodilidae, that's like a song you would write for a banjo. Crocodilidae, dee 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 beep, dee dee beep. See, I'm already laying down the track for you. Yeah, Crocodilidae. That is the most fun word to say. Crocodilidae.
But so the crocodiles, the Crocodilidae, that includes all the crocodiles. The Alligatoridae contains the alligators, the two alligators I mentioned, the American and Chinese, as well as all the caimans.
Alligatoridae is not as fun to say. It's Crocodilidae. Crocodilidae, dee 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 dee.
And then you
I'm gonna
have-
be hung up on this for a long time.
And then you have the third group of crocodilians, the gharials or gavials. We have a skull of one right here. They are in the family Gavialidae. And these guys, you can see why they're different from the crocodiles and alligators. They're super weird. So their skulls are modified for fishing. So they live in these murky waters, and the fish will be like swimming here, and they can use these to stun them and then just chomp them up.
So they just like swat their head around. They'll be like, bam, hit a fish. And the
Yep.
fish is like, what hit me? And then it's like, oh no.
Yep.
It's in the mouth. I just love the scales. They feel so cool.
Yeah.
Really smooth.
So when people take alligator or crocodilian skins to make leather, they will actually use the belly scales rather than the rest because of how smooth and uniform they are. Like you can see, they cut really nicely. If we were to do the, let me flip it over. If we were to do the dorsal side,
Whoa.
you can see it's very hard and rigid and has lots of different patterns, so it's not as easy to make leather out of it or make a nice design out of it. So if you ever see any alligator products, they're probably from the belly. Yeah, so the question was, is there a reason the stomach is easier to skin than the back? And so that's what we were saying, the skin here is a lot looser. And that's because alligators have this special thing called osteoderms. So osteoderms are a bony structure that they have within their skin that makes it super tough. And so all those osteoderms are on the upper half. So for that part, we won't be able to cut through this at all.
Wow. Osteoderm is another track on my album, but I think it needs a little bit more work. It can't just be called osteoderm. This is coming right after Crocodilidae, so it's gotta be have like a high impact. Because that song's gonna be a hit.
The osteoderms are under specialized scales called scutes. We call it that.
Scutes?
Scutes. So scutes are these, can I flip it over
Yep.
one more time? Scutes are these big block-like scales you see here. So they're super hard, they're made of keratin. They're also like this, they're kind of the same thing as the shields on a turtle shell.
Oh, cool.
And so the scutes, along with the osteoderms, means these guys are super protected at their very top.
Flip it.
So when we get to the fingers, we still want to keep all the skin on there, so we're going to be really careful, and we're going to slice down each one and then kind of peel it back. Like
Okie dokie. So kind of a departure from the palm.
Yeah.
That's another track album. Departure from the palm. I'm not.
It-
maybe
yeah,
I'm the
it's
ol-
a
I-
long album.
I'm the only one amused by this, but I think it's funny.
No, so the question was, are we going to stuff it and put it on an exhibit? And so we are getting the skeleton out of this to be put into our collection. The skin we will preserve in ethanol and will be part of our fluid collection. So the question was, how long does the mother stay with the babies? Probably just past the juvenile age, so like when they're 2 feet maybe.
When she can't fit them in her mouth anymore.
Yeah. When they're too heavy for her back.
That's an interesting thing to talk about too, is sex determination
Mhm.
in alligators and crocodiles. So when the mother goes and lays a bunch of eggs, and she can lay up to like 50 eggs at a time, I think
Yep.
you mentioned earlier, the sex of the offspring is determined by the temperature of the nest, and it's a really narrow window of time. So we had I have the temperatures here because I couldn't remember them, but below 31 degrees Celsius produces all females. Between 31 and 32.5 degrees Celsius produces majority males, and anything above 32.5 degrees will produce all females. So like you can imagine how like climate change might be having a big impact on the ratio of males to females in alligators and crocodilians, which is a really interesting thing to explore and to look into.
Yeah, so we can talk about those. Okay, so this first one is an American alligator skull. So what we're doing right now. This next one is an American crocodile skull. So here you can really see the difference between the snouts. So the alligators have a more U-shaped snout and the crocodiles have a more V-shaped snout. Here we have a yakar caiman. So the caimans are in the same family as the alligators. So you see they have this more U-shaped snout, but they also have these teeth holes that the crocodile has. So they're kind of like a crocodile-like alligator, but they're alligators. And then this last one is a false gharial, which is the last group of crocodilians. So these are specialized in fishing. So they have this really long snout so that they can snap fish up from kind of far away. Oh, good question. So the question was, why are we leaving the skin around the cloaca? In reptiles, the number of scales they have is very important in their identification. In alligators, not so much. Like, it's very obviously an American alligator. The skin and the bones, they will be here for hundreds of years as long as this museum stands. So maybe at some point in the future, the cloacal scales will be very important for alligator research.
Oh, interesting. So are some reptiles identified by their cloacal scales?
Yep.
Wow.
So in snakes especially, they have one big scale near there called the anal scale. And you can tell one snake from another, depends if it's divided or whole.
Wow. Anal scales. Another track on the album.
So the alligators' sense of vision, some people say it's almost comparable to an owl's.
What?
They have very good eyesight. Their photoreceptors in their eyes also allows them to see in the dark and in their murky waters that they're usually living in.
So they have great senses, like highly attuned.
Oh yeah, highly attuned senses. Now because, hold on, I'm gonna flip it over. So you can see the eyes are kind of aimed that way. So they do have kind of a blind spot at the very middle, but don't trust that protecting you against an alligator. Their sense of hearing is also very good. They do communicate with each other. Alligators more so than crocodiles, actually. So alligators are able to make these bellowing noises.
Oh, right.
And you've probably heard it. If you've seen a Jurassic Park movie, that's how they get those like really low grumbling noises that the dinosaurs make.
Those are alligator noises?
They're quite scary if you look them up. And they also make noises low enough that we can't hear them. But when they're in the water and making these noises, the volume and frequency of the noises ripples the water around them, so it looks like they're farting.
So it looks like they're farting.
Yeah. In alligators, these aren't ribs that you can see over here. This is the gastralia. Yeah.
Can you see that on the camera? The
The gastralia. So these are like not quite bones, they're like cartilaginous fibers that they have over their belly. They're not really sure what it's used for, if it's used for breathing or to aid in digestion or just other general protection of the organs. But another group of animals that had gastralia are dinosaurs. So if you go up to the zoo exhibit, that's that new kind of rib cage looking thing they've added to her belly. And alligators and crocodilians have them too. A cow that was fed.
We had a comment that a live audience member thinks that this smells like a cow that was fed rotting fish. So that's a good description. I would agree with that. Kind of composty, kind of earthy, kind of fishy, aquatic.
But believe us when we say that this smell is not the worst. Like,
No, this is not
There
at
are
all.
some absolutely horrible smells in the freezer.
Oh, that's a good question. The question was, how has skinning this reptile been different than skinning a mammal? It's not as smelly as mammals. Mammals have a lot of, they use a lot of glands and hormones in order to communicate with one another, and it tends to be pretty odoriferous. And then mammals also just kind of stink, depending on what they are. So it's not as smelly as a mammal, which I'm kind of grateful for. It also is, in some ways, easier to skin because you can get like a good grip on the skin. It's quite a bit thicker. It's also more challenging in some ways because of the scales and because the skin is so thick. But in general, yeah, it's just a learning experience for me too.
I think you flipped the scale.
Oh, what did I do? This? Oh, that was a part of his finger. Do you want to keep that?
Yeah, we'll keep it. Yeah. So the question was, when do the teeth, when they fall out, do they grow back? Yes. Alligators and all crocodiles, I think they could have 80 to 100 teeth at a time.
What?
And they do fall out often when they're fighting whatever they're trying to eat or fighting each other, and they will grow back. They can go through thousands of teeth in their entire life.
Really?
So the question was, is there anything unique to their digestive systems? So alligator stomachs aren't that large compared to their size. So but they need to eat large things. So their stomach acid is very acidic, a lot more than ours, I think. So to digest things quickly. But there are things in there that don't digest quickly. So they have trouble digesting keratin, so like hair and turtle shells. So the hair will actually form kind of like a lump in their stomach from everything going on, which they will spit out. So alligators can also produce hairballs.
Oh, really? That's kind of funny. Did they ever find hairballs? Alligator hairballs?
They found alligator hairballs from eating feral pigs, I think.
Another title on my track, alligator hairballs.
Would a shell just take?
And another thing that they have in their stomachs are rocks.
Oh.
So alligators will purposely swallow stones to put in their stomach. These are called gastroliths. They're not entirely sure what their purpose is, whether it's to aid in digestion, to like kind of crunch things up in there, or if it's to like help clean the stomach area. Some people also think it's useful for diving, so it makes the alligator heavier, so it helps them in their balance going down.
A lot of other like dinosaurs would swallow rocks too. So you can find gastroliths from like giant sauropods, like the titanosaur that we've got out in Stanley Field Hall. So like a lot of those long-necked sauropod dinosaurs would also swallow rocks. So you can find fossilized gastroliths.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of neat.
So these large chunks you see here are its cheek and jaw muscles. So you can see they are quite large and take up a good chunk, and it goes deep. So alligators and all crocodilians have extremely large jaw muscles for closing, not for opening. So if this alligator were still alive and I held it like this, it would not be able to open its mouth. And I'm not exerting that much force into it. You could tie a rubber band, and not a fairly large, thick rubber band, and it wouldn't be able to open its mouth. That being said, if it shut its mouth and you are in its mouth, it will not open again.
You will be having a hard time.
Yeah. So the question was, why isn't there any blood? There is blood, it's just all in the muscle right now, and it would be more within the organs. Reptiles in general also don't bleed as much as mammals do because of the three-chambered heart.
This thing is wacky. It's like it looks like a dragon.
People think the Chinese alligator, which is the only other kind of alligator in the world besides the American, is what inspired the Chinese dragon legends.
Really?
We also wouldn't be
It smells
offended.
like bile.
An olfactory journey.
It is that's what we called it earlier today, olfactory journey.
The disassembly line.
A disassembly line. That is a smart observation. You can because look at that. You can see the ooky bits in its throat. You guys look. Gross. Come on. I don't have time for this today. Or what is that? Is that cartilage?
That's part of the hyoid.
The hyoid?
Yes, so if you could go around that.
Okay.
So like this way.
It smells like rotten apples in stomach acid or something nasty. Gross.
Clearly this gator had a final meal of some sorts.
Oh no, I'm nervous about all of this. Because it's all so contained. That was one thing I wasn't.
Yeah.
Like if this could be nuclear fallout and we don't know. I am not prepared for this. Because I guess if you puncture it and it's just like, oh, come on. Josh, you didn't tell me this when we agreed to do a gator.
From this point of view, the gator is very small.
Josh, I'm nervous.
Don't go too deep though, because there are ribs in there.
Oh, the question was what all is inside of the cloaca, and the answer is party time.
Yeah. So the reproductive organs exit through the cloaca. The digestive tract ends at the cloaca. So where they poop, pee, and reproduce all come out of there.
Turn it over. Whoa!
Oh,
that would have been bad. One cool thing about gators is that they can rotate their wrist. So a lot of reptiles, as I understand it, they only work like a hinge up and down. But gators, their wrist can go back and forth.
Gators are also, their vertebrae is connected in such a way that allows them to swim really well. So you see in water when they do that curving motion, so they can do that like that in the water. And that's all from how their vertebrae is connected with each other.
Josh, you should show him the tail.
So here's almost the end of the tail. Because it's been freezer burned, we're not able to get the very tip out, which is fine. But as you can see, this is all vertebrae that connects from all the way up here. That goes all the way down.
Yeah, and look at those spines, though.
Yeah.
That's neat.
I'm about to open the mouth if you want to steal yourself.
Dang it! The mouth is gonna. Can you really not smell this thing anymore?
No.
I can still smell it.
Do you guys
I'm
smell
nervous
anything?
about smelling it again. Oh boy. Do you ever remove the meat around the tail?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you if you wanted
So
to do
just
that
like
next.
down and this way?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to go to the party package.
The
totally.
party package. And so these white lines you see her cutting through right here. That's where they store their fat.
Is that its tongue here?
It is its tongue. We have reached the tongue.
Oh, dang it.
So there's its tongue.
Why is it white?
I'm not sure. It is very. It feels healthy. You want to?
That's not a good sign, right?
What would it be a sign of?
I don't
No,
know.
I think this is fine. It looks fine.
Oh, jeez, Louise.
Yeah, we
Ugh.
want to dab in
Josh,
there a
I'm not
bit.
feeling good about this. About this contained body vessel and the secrets that it will that it will express once we open it. The olfactory journey continues.
So alligators have this really cool thing in their mouths called the secondary palate. So the palate is like the roof of our mouths. So alligators have two roofs in their mouths laying on top of each other. And so that separates the cavity that the trachea sits in and the cavity that the esophagus sits in. And so that allows them to breathe while they're underwater.
What? Cool.
This would be the first palate of the alligator. And then this is the nostrils, and that would be like the secondary palate in there. So it would go, they would like breathe air through there, and then it comes out here into the trachea. The brain would be somewhere in there.
Very small.
Yes.
It's like tiny.
It's kind of like maybe a small walnut or quarter.
Will we get to the brain?
No, we won't be able to get to the brain. That would involve breaking the skull, which is already very difficult, or like scooping it out, and that would also not look great.
I know, despite the despite the name of the program.
There will be no brain scoop today. Gators also have this thing in the first, the oral cavity, where the esophagus is called the palatal valve, and that's something that can close up that cavity to make sure that water does not get into the esophagus when they're underwater. We are approaching the innards.
Oh no. I don't like that, Josh. The announcement, we are approaching the innards. If anybody wants to know what my level of anxiety feels like, it's like when the pilot comes on in the airplane and just says, flight attendants, please return to your jump seats. And then he doesn't tell you anything, and you're like, oh no, he knows something's coming. but I don't, but he doesn't want to concern the passengers, but I'm already concerned. That's my anxiety feeling right now. As Josh is saying, flight attendants, we are approaching the innards. Josh, is there a way to mitigate the foul gut smell?
Febreze it.
Oh no! Does anybody have any Febreze? Can I borrow that? Thank you.
It's yours.
Oh goodness, thank you, a souvenir. And this works? You just put it under your nose?
Yeah. You got like
That's
laundry
delightful.
bags.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my goodness. How did I never know this technique? This is amazing.
Yeah, you gotta spring for the good stuff though. It has to be Bath and Body Works.
Do you want some of this?
I'm good.
Okay. Does anybody else want to try it? It really is delightful. Here, put it. Yeah, it smells wonderful. Bath and Body Works? Okay, hashtag not an ad, but if anybody working at B&B, you want to
You're doing a great
sponsor
job.
Brain Scoop, I think we could come up with I'm just like okay. This is awesome. I'm back in it, guys. I'm back in the game. Woo! One and I went through another one on a different size.
So you guys can see more of these here. These are more fatty bodies along the lines right between the ribs and where the organs lie. Probably also for like insulation and more protection for the organs. Do you want to, we can flip this over. You can
What are we doing? What's going
Do you
on?
want to start separating some of this fascia out some more?
All right. Are we?
There's
are we still in
nothing
the danger
green
zone?
so far, which is great. Which means the gallbladder is still closed.
Oh, good.
You would stop.
No, you would just start regretting your life choices.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, like, I've done a snake before, it was like half rotten, and I got to that point where I'm like, no, I can't save these organs. There's no point in me preserving them. I'm just going to throw them away. Like, but it's like I did all that work for the skeleton, you know, so I might as well get the skeleton out.
He's bloody.
It is blood.
That's also not like a great sign. Soak some of that up.
Really, though, everything still looks fine.
Oh, good.
I'm very impressed. Good job.
Way to go, Gator buddy.
All right, so for the internal anatomy
Oh, jeez.
portion of it, sorry.
You slapped me.
So again, this is the tongue for anyone new coming in. So the tongue leads to the esophagus, this pink throat area you see coming down. And right next to the esophagus would be the trachea.
AKA the windpipe.
And the trachea leads to the lungs. So there are these big globs here that's kind of bleeding. So you can see they have a lot of membranes inside, and that's to hold all the organs, have all the blood pass through to get oxygen. Then we gotta cut a bit more up to show the rest. Okay, so someone asked a question about how they breathe. So they don't have a normal diaphragm like we do. So you saw when we were cutting up the muscle, there was a lot of muscle along the walls here. And so that creates like a piston of some kind. So they contract the muscles here, and that pulls the livers away, which are these two large globs right here, and that pulls them back, and that lets the lungs fill up with air and take up more space.
Meat bag, meat bag. Gotta grab your meat bag. Sometimes I'll come up with little songs while I work.
For the CD.
Yeah, for the CD with my discography. Do you want me? Well, that's the song. That's the extent of it. It's meat bag, gotta grab the meat bag. And so we'll just call that meat bag. That'll just be a B-side special. Is that what we're up to? Track 13?
Track 13.
All right, and we have found the heart.
You found the heart. Fun. Oh, what a wacky little sack.
Sack of blood.
Wacky sack.
Again, unlike most reptiles, which have a 3-chambered heart, alligators have a 4-chambered heart, like mammals and birds.
Back in here. He's so floppy.
Yeah.
Turns out that happens when you remove all their parts.
It looks like it's not rotten, which is fantastic.
Isn't that fantastic news?
We were really worried there for a second,
I
so
was
maybe this
worried.
guy is just soft-bodied. But here's the stomach. Actually, let me clear out some more.
Now I've got the meat bag song stuck in my head. Meat bag, gotta grab your meat bag. This is the meat bag, everybody. The famous meat bag from the famous one-hit wonder. See, when you've been doing this for 4 hours, you're just like, I'm delirious. What day is it? How long have I been standing here?
We've been standing here a while.
Before.
Acid still be like active or still?
Sorry?
Would their stomach acid like still be?
They shouldn't be. No. It's mostly
Hi.
out. All right, here's the stomach. So as you can see, it really isn't that big compared to the
Oh,
size
yeah.
of the animal. So they really push things out of there. It does feel like there's something inside. Do you
No.
want to feel it?
No, yes. No, don't open it.
We're not going to open it, but.
Ugh.
All right, so we've gotten to the small intestines.
Oh boy.
There they are. And yeah, they look a lot like ours. And near the end, you'd get to the large intestine.
Yeah. Poop. That's where your poop is. Cool.
And I guess now's a good time to find out the gender.
Oh, the gender. We don't know who we've been working with. Are you just going to invert the cloaca?
We can. That might be cooler to see.
What do we think? I'm going with male. I would say I'm holding my breath, but it's like I really am literally holding my breath.
It's a male.
Oh, it's a boy. Oh boy. Oh yay. Wow.
There it is.
It's a boy.
Wow, that is
It's really you'd think it'd be bigger. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
it's really all they get. Even like adult gators, their max penis length would only be like 10 centimeters.
what? I mean, if it gets the job done. Right, there it is. Well, and I think that's like
And so their reproductive organ is interesting in that, so normally in animals it has to be inflated or everted to come out. Their penis isn't connected to any major muscle groups directly. So it just kind of sits there like inside, permanently erect, I guess,
what?
until it's time to do the do, and then it flings out.
It flings out.
Yeah, very quickly. There are cool videos on it on YouTube.
Oh, really? There are videos on this.
And then the way they transfer sperm is different than the way mammals do it. So instead of a tube within inside the penis, it travels on the outside
What?
and kind of like,
The sperm tube is on the outside?
and like drips down.
What? What? That is bizarre. Well, nature. It's amazing. That's really. Is that it?
Well, this last thing are the testes,
Oh.
which you can actually see here. There are these two, I don't know if the internet can see, but there are these two very thin tubes between the kidneys.
There they are.
And during breeding season, which is in the spring for alligators, they will actually inflate and get
Oh.
quite large.
Let's end on that one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good.
Cool. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
No problem. Thanks
was
for having
awesome.
me. Yeah, this was really fun.
Cool, thanks,
And not as
Internet.
smelly as I thought it would be.
I know. Well,
Well, you maybe
Yeah.
thought it was.
all right. Thanks,
Now time to
Internet.
put-
Thanks, Brain Scoop.
It's now time to put the organs.
Bye. It still has brains on it.